Hey guys, Hair Cake Part 2 coming soon. Just kidding. That era is over.
Let's go. Rap.
The internet is not a good place.
Yeah.
It has never been a good place in my opinion.
Yeah.
Has it become a better place? I don't know. Probably in some ways, and probably not in other ways. I don't know. I'm not very smart, okay? That's the problem with all this. But I decided to make a video on idubbbz because he made a big apology video that caused a lot of other creators, a lot of my friends to make reactions or you know, people sifting through it because everyone has opinions now about everything. Quickly, I'm gonna go over the apology with no bias and no opinions, and then I will give you guys my opinion at the end. Warning, it's very damaging to a lot of groups of people. Not really, it's not, but you'll probably be interested in it if you clicked on this video and you are parasocially obsessed with me. idubbbz has been at the forefront of the internet zeitgeist for a bit now, okay? He kind of fell off, and then he kind of came back after the Creator Clash thing, and then he kind of came back again when he went on Anthony Padilla's show and said this.
I did not like the interactions that I had with fans. There were quite a few human beings that I interacted with.
In person?
Yeah, in person, that just sucked. They just sucked because I attracted a lot of people who suck.
He basically condemned his original audience for following him for the darker content that he used to make. He put this on Anthony's channel. It's pretty good, interesting video. I love Anthony Padilla. Some of the darker content that Ian used to make and stuff that would push the boundaries was him saying slurs in the H3 podcast. By the way, Ethan, love to say slurs as well in the podcast. Interesting stuff. It's almost like Ian is like a key to be able to just say extremely offensive shit, it seems like. So keep that in mind because that sort of makes sense to me. He used to say, I'm gay.
I'm gay.
That was another one of his catchphrases back in the day. And he also met Tana Mongo and said the N-word. One of his other catchphrases was he has osteoporosis and then also NF. The N-word and the F-word right in together, dude.
What? Who let him say that? What the fuck?
He's changed, though. All right, he's not like that anymore, and he's also changed his appearance. He looks drastically different. He looks like gravity has taken a significant toll on his body. I'm just gonna be honest with you. His content's changed, and I think he was expecting people to understand that he changed as well. And instead of just letting people kind of, you know, writing it off, he made an apology video. After his clip on Anthony Padilla's show got blown up on Twitter, and people were like, dude, he fucking says he hates his old audience. Don't bite the hand that feeds, man. Don't bite the hand that feeds. It's a retroactive apology for who he used to be. He basically sets boundaries, tempers expectations for the audience going forward, for his audience going forward. He's not that guy, pal. He's not gonna make content like that anymore. If you wanna hear someone say slurs and get away with it, you have to find someone else. And by God, if you don't like that, here's the door. Walks away. In the video, he seems to hold a lot of regret for his old content. I see a man, I've watched the video multiple times, I see a man with very low self-esteem having trouble coming to terms with things that he did in his past. He says a lot of his original content wasn't even edgy, that it was just cruel.
You know, some of the videos I've made have been very, not edgy. I don't think they you know, some of these videos were edgy. I think they were just outright cruel. So I don't want people to, you know, get it confused about, you know, where I stand. I have made some cruel, hurtful content.
He apologizes for things that he said that were hurtful and apologizes for it taking this long for an apology to actually come. He talks about a lack of accountability.
The content I'm talking about specifically are content cop videos and videos where I was just generally criticizing people for very lackluster reasons, and you know, obviously didn't have any accountability online whatsoever on my end.
He talks about how he's no better than the people he was making content cops on, and how he's made mistakes and he doesn't think anyone deserves that level of cruelty. He's basically come to an empathetic, maybe he found Buddhism. He found some kind of Greek book, or some sort of ancient tome, and he's been reading it. He's reading it. He's learning. He's becoming a better person, it seems like. Weird. He says it's not right that he profited off these old videos. He also unlisted all the old videos, made a Google Doc, and there's also a playlist if you go to his channel. So he didn't delete them, but he unlisted them, which that's fair, you know? So, and we did check. A lot of them are monetized and kind of based on simple logic of YouTube. He made some money. He didn't make a ton of money off these videos for sure. Ad rates were lower back then, but he definitely did profit off of these videos, but it didn't make him a millionaire or anything crazy like that. And he mentions that the apology video will be monetized and the profits will go to charities that combat the messaging perpetuated by his old content. And then he gets to, in my opinion, the most important point. The thought that he indoctrinated his audience with his original content.
It's also indoctrinated a lot of people into thinking that this is an okay way to behave, and it's not.
That's indoctrination. That's a heavy thing to say out there. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty heavy. I do think there is a lot of merit to that though, but we'll get back to it. He explains himself in this video in a way that would be, I think, relatable to people who have been through the same issues, his past audience potentially, people who are just trying to reinvent themselves and better themselves, just trying to be better, right? It seems like that's what this video is kind of geared towards. It's geared towards a direct apology to the people that he offended, and also maybe a like relatable sort of path for people who he quote unquote indoctrinated to be better.
I am very insecure about my ability to create interesting content or like entertain. It's gotten better over the years, but it's something that I have struggled with constantly. And it's one of the reasons why I, kept making this hurtful content.
He says he went from having no self-accountability to now being overly self-critical and saying he should even take responsibility for the actions of his viewers on top of all of this, which that's a hot button in my opinion, but we'll get back to it yet again. He says he doesn't feel his personality would be entertaining now, and it took him a long time to come to terms with that because racism is still racism and bigotry is still bigotry. I feel like he probably has a personality beyond just being racist and a bigot. I mean, and like that was very little of his. Anyways, we'll yet again get back to that. The dude is very regretful, remorseful, and sorry and ashamed of his old content. It's his content. He's definitely allowed to feel that way, especially if he's changed so much and has been striving to be a better person and become more empathetic, sympathetic, whatever it may be, just opening his worldview up. On top of all the people who he sort of indirectly offended with his racism and bigotry, he also apologizes to the targets of the content cops, but then also says he still doesn't like them, which is funny as hell, in my opinion.
I'm sorry to everyone that I made content cop videos on. I still don't like the majority of you, and that's fine.
And he talks about how everything has affected himself, his wife, and his relationship with his wife. And that was the biggest point of contention for him to make changes because he wasn't a very good partner. And he told himself that it wasn't his problem that she was getting this hate. So he's taking responsibility for the hate that his wife gets as well, for being like an OnlyFans model, I suppose. So all in all, it's a 17-minute long ass apology. The biggest and most relatable thing in the video, in my opinion, is he was approached by a trans fan, and the trans fan automatically assumed that Ian wouldn't like them because they are trans.
And this particular fan came up to me and said, I know you probably don't like transgender people, but can I, get a picture? That smacked me in the face. I was like, oh, holy shit. Why would you think that? But I mean, it was fairly obvious. I was being cruel, hateful, bigoted, and being very uncaring about people's feelings.
And that affected him heavily. Personally, I like having interactions with people who watch my videos, and if I ever met anyone who just automatically assumed I wouldn't like them, I would feel very guilty, and that would probably cause me to rethink things. But fortunately, I don't believe my content has had that effect on people because I'm not that kind of person that uses those sorts of words in my videos. But in my personal life, shh. I shouldn't have said that in this video, I feel like, but oh well, I'm an idiot. It's a lot to digest, all right? And so many people have made videos about it, and there's so many takes, and there's so many opinions, and it's all over the place, dude. The most pertinent thing out of all of what he's apologizing for is the indoctrination of his past audience into saying horrible things and feeling as if though there's no repercussions or consequences for saying those things. Slurs towards people who are, part of the groups that those slurs offend. To me, someone who is not affected by those words, even a small amount, and watched his content back in the day and thought it was funny, thought it was interesting, thought it was very edgy. Would never have done it myself, but definitely could see the appeal to it. I looked up to the guy for a little while, pre-hair cake. I thought that was fucking disgusting. And I have emetophobia. I don't like vomiting, so I immediately distanced myself from watching his content. So pre-NF, all that stuff. I used to love idubbbz when he would make the Kickstarter crap videos and when he would do some unboxings and stuff. I thought that shit was funny. He would poke fun at religion. And just, everything else, basically. I thought the religious stuff was pretty brave, though. That was like the peak of his edginess when I was watching him. As for the indoctrination, I was not indoctrinated. Most of my friends were not indoctrinated by this man, but we were all adults. I was 19 when his videos were popping hard, okay? I was a kid still, but I was not indoctrinated. I was smart. I was homeschooled. I was already 40, 50 years old at that point. I can see how young people in school would use those things that he, made popular in his videos in school to affect people in a way that I just simply couldn't understand. I'm not saying that that is exactly what happened, but I've seen a lot of comments and a lot of tweets and shit of people saying that that is exactly what happened. And, it's not that surprising, to be honest. I think it's the same thing with Andrew Tate. I see Andrew Tate as an entertaining figure. I don't take the things that Andrew Tate says as seriousness. The problem is when people do, right? He's not Andrew Tate. idubbbz is no Andrew Tate for sure. But let's be real. I feel like the things that he said are a little bit more hurtful than the things that Andrew Tate has said. And if they're all bad or none of them are good, it makes sense. It makes sense that people would be indoctrinated and have a negative influence on the people around them from consuming this type of content from a person that they look up to, whether it be idubbbz or Andrew Tate. Weird example, I know, but that's just something that I immediately thought of. There's better role models out there than idubbbz from 2016 and Andrew Tate from 2023, 2022. Especially if you have no ability to understand nuance and understand intention and understand irony, you are a lost cause, and you will be indoctrinated, and you will be someone who is bad eventually. And if you don't have an idubbbz or an Andrew Tate to fill those vacuums of just memes are an ancient thing, just shit you can absorb that just becomes wildly popular. You absorb it, make it part of your identity, and then you can just spit it out because it makes you feel a specific way that you like or that other people like. Something's always going to be there to fill that hole up. And it's up to you to learn how to change and be a better person and understand, empathy and logic and rationality and why the most important thing is being happy and not being mean and offensive. In my opinion, I can sort of double down on this, that idubbbz was an influence for saying fucked up shit, because even on the H3 podcast, you all know Ethan now. I mean, the dude, that thing is crazy. That whole show is insane, right? The pendulum has swung. It's a pendulous effect, like my cock and balls, all right? Gone so far the other way. But there was a time in which Ian came on and they just said slurs on a podcast for minutes. What? On a mainstream that is crazy. It's as if Ian was just a key to be able to just say really offensive shit that offended people without seemingly offending anyone. And at the end of the day, I don't think Ian, in his apology, was apologizing for saying racist things. Or just saying bigoted shit, I think he's apologizing for facilitating that for people, right? Which he definitely did do that. Ethan, creators, he did facilitate it for sure. And I think that you can easily apologize for. Why is that something that I just don't understand why people would be mad at him for apologizing for influencing people to be bad, regardless of his original intent, which in my opinion was not to be bigoted or racist. All right? And it also wasn't to influence people into doing it. See what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Does that make fucking sense? Am I an idiot? So it makes sense, right? Doesn't the apology make sense? No, it doesn't? Okay. Now, do I personally believe that he needed to apologize? No, I don't personally believe that he needed to apologize. But given context and nuance and circumstances that he presented in his video, it makes sense. Someone with a conscience would probably want to apologize, especially someone who's hyper focusing on this type of stuff. I mean, if it's affecting his wife, it's affecting his personal life, of course. I'm surprised it's taken this long for him to apologize. That's just my opinion, bro. Now, do I think that his self-inflicted flagellation of an apology was necessary? No, not really. I think people would have understood in any way, but it obviously shows that he cares, which isn't a bad thing either, so. Hey guys, I'm a fence sitter. One thing I want to know is why the fuck anyone cares? Like, why does anyone care about this man's life? Like, he doesn't owe us anything. We don't owe him anything. Like, that's one thing that bothers me about the internet is how much people care. The level of like obsession and just focus and postulation that goes on that results in absolutely nothing at all. People get mad at me for being a fucking fence sitter. Do you know how frustrating that is to me? Not in a real way. I don't actually get frustrated. But yes, of course. Yes, of course. I'm a rational person who doesn't have to take the side of something, and I can see reason from both sides and then come to a conclusion that doesn't have to be divisive, because being divisive is extremely easy. I think being divisive is extremely easy because you don't have to think as much. And I think that idubbbz has taken a fat W. I think this is a W. His apology video is a W because he's going against the grain. He's going into the fire, potentially causing a lot more shit. Which he is absolutely. Like, this is not going to be good for him, in my opinion. This is going to be a net negative for him for sure. People are going to continue to bully him. Like I said, I think it's good for him specifically. I'm not really sure this does any good for people who were his audience members, the people who he quote unquote indoctrinated. He didn't really offer any sort of, communication for those people on how to be better people. Not that they would want to be better people anyways. I'm also not saying you're a bad person if you say the N-word. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No. Twitter's wild though. Twitter's fucking wild. You can't call people the N-word, dude. Come on. Shut the fuck up. Don't be an asshole. You can, I guess, but then you're misanthropic, and then what's the point of living? My boy is the judge, jury, and executioner of himself. And he found himself guilty, and I think that's why he turned to boxing and all this charity stuff. Maybe he likes being hurt. I don't really know. At the end of the day, guys, who the fuck cares? Let the man be a man, in my opinion. I don't really know. I feel like it's really easy to be critical of this, especially if you enjoyed his content a long time ago. But at the same time, what good does it do to even say what good does it do? What good does it do? It means nothing. It's not going to change him, and it's not going to lead to any sort of good quality conversation. So